Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here as we continue on All-Star Race Weekend here for the Duracell Cup Series at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're getting ready here today to determine who is going to be starting basically in spots 1 through 12 for the All-Star Race, as 12 drivers lock themselves into the All-Star Race with wins before All-Star Race Weekend this season. We already know the Lots 13 through 16 are going to belong to Dylan Young, Ryan Brommer, Carson Gum, and our fan vote winner, Trent Dunham. Of course, Young, Brommer, and Gum getting in via the All-Star Open, but they all start near the rear of the field. So the 12 drivers that are locked in, their starting spots are going to be determined here today in a 10-minute group qualifying session. And we've got somebody that's already headed out onto the racetrack, and that is Kyle Matthews, the Kings Island Chevrolet, one of 2 drivers that are representing for Retro Racing Enterprises here in the All-Star Race, Jessica Shelton being the other. Kyle Matthews winning the Wreckfest, if you will, at Bristol Motor Speedway. And Kyle Matthews definitely needs to get his season turned around as well. I mean, he does have the win in the bank, but he is struggling in the point standings also. So we talk about the midway point of the season with the All-Star Race, and we call it basically a period of evaluation for drivers, whether they've had a good start to the season or a horrible start to the season. Whether they've got to win and they're running up in the top 10 in points, or they've got to win and they're running down just inside the top 30, or in some drivers' cases, outside of the top 30 in the point standings. And, drivers definitely use the All-Star Race as a period of evaluation to kind of look at where they currently situated and realize, okay, this is what we got to do during the second half of the regular season. Otherwise, we can really, even if we do make it into the playoffs, we can kiss our championship hopes goodbye. Behind Kyle Matthews, you got the 43 of Chris Dollerton, who could kind of fit that bill a lot, because last time out at Fuel Motorsports Park, he went to victory lane, but prior to that, he spent pretty much the entirety of the first half of the regular season outside the top 30 in the point standings. And Chris Dollerton, hoping that the victory he was able to pick up at Fuel Motorsports Park is going to help him momentum-wise during the second half of the regular season to be able to make it into the playoffs. James Shelley, winner at one of our mile-and-a-half tracks this season at Kentucky. It's going to be interesting to see about drivers that have been able to win this season with the rules package at mile-and-a-halfs, how they'll be able to do here at Charlotte. Because Charlotte's a D-shaped mile-and-a-half track, the only track that we've gone to so far this season that's a D-shaped mile-and-a-half, besides Charlotte here this weekend, is Texas Motor Speedway. And, of course, Jesse Turner was the winner of that race. So we'll see if having a win with the rules package at a mile-and-a-half, even though it's not the same configuration, we'll see if James Shelley is going to be a force to be reckoned with here in the All-Star Race. And bear in mind, all these drivers that are practicing here today in the qualifying session, drivers that will be taking part in the All-Star Race tomorrow. You've got, of course, the drivers that took part in the All-Star Open earlier on this weekend. They're all practicing as well for the Coca-Cola 600, getting a feel for this rules package of what they can expect when we get to the longest race of the season. We just mentioned Jesse Turner, and there he is. Turner winning at Atlanta. I think I said Texas, actually. I meant to say Atlanta, so that was a fail on my part. But Jesse Turner right now is 7th on the speed charts, and I kind of think that this guy's going to have the edge in the All-Star race, because Atlanta and Charlotte, very similar in terms of configuration, both a mile-and-a-half, both D-shaped mile-and-a-half tracks. I think Atlanta's got more banking in the turns, though. There's Jose Mills. Talk about a driver that really needs a period of evaluation here in the midway point of the regular season. Jose Mills does have a victory, got it at the very beginning of the season, second race of the year at Manassas, but this team, it's been up and down week after week. He's in the top 30 in points, he's outside the top 30 in points. He's in the top 30 in points, he's outside the top 30 in points. He starts off the second half of the regular season outside the top 30 in the standings, 32nd in the points. And boy, talk about a team that really needs something good to happen in the next 13 races, and that would definitely be this driver out of Blue Oval Automotive. Carter Friesen started out the season best way you can with a victory in the Great American Race, Daytona 500. Carter is 24th in points, though. There's a couple of drivers that are down near the 30th position in points that have a win that kind of need to distance themselves from that. James Shelley, who we saw earlier, could fall into that category as he is 22nd in points, and Jessica Shelton, who we'll see in a bit, 24th in the standings. So keep an eye on them. As Zach Rogers, he's spent the last 2 or 3 weeks battling for the points lead. He lost it after last week's race at Fuel Motorsports Park to Levi McIntyre, who is not in the All-Star race. McIntyre does not have a win this season, even though he is the overall points leader, and we saw he failed to make it into the All-Star race through the Open. But we saw that Ryan Brommer raced his way into the All-Star race via the Open, so both the Bulldog Motorsports Dodge Challengers will be racing in tomorrow's event. There's the second Toyota Camry representative, Benny Watson. We saw James Shelley earlier. The Otter Island Motorsports single car team driver, Benny Watson, who of course went to victory lane at the Throne of Games 400 at Darlington Raceway. Right now, Benny Watson 9th on the speed charts in the Hers Toyota Camry. Watson coming into this race 8th in the point standings. He hit a bit of a slump, as we know, during the midway point of the first half of the regular season, but then bounced back after the win at Darlington and jumped back up into the top 10. Definitely looking like he'll be a prime contender to get into the playoffs. Is William Brock, who won our first road course of the season at Sonoma on fuel strategy. Right now 8th fastest on the speed charts. William Brock coming into this race 5th in the point standings. You know, a lot of times we talk about how a win just is like a shot of adrenaline in the arm for a driver, for a team. And William Brock, after he got that win at Sonoma, now he's been a force to be reckoned with up in the top 10 and now the top 5 in the overall standings. Dylan Poteet, who won our first dirt track stop of the season back at Springfield Mile, right now 5th. Driver out of Michael Norman Motorsports. I believe he's the only entry out of Michael Norman Motorsports, as all 3 of his teammates didn't make it in via the Open. Dylan Poteet comes into this race 15th in the point standings. Now, it doesn't sound so bad, but after a disappointing run at Fuel Motorsports Park, he actually dropped 6 spots in the standings to his current position of 15th. We saw Kyle Matthews earlier. There's Jordan Lopez, the only 2-time winner in the field. Lopez, of course, winning at Las Vegas and then later on at Michigan. Obviously has this rules package down pretty doggone well. 4th in the standings coming into this race, and would love to add an all-star race win to his repertoire, as right now he is 3rd. Jessica Shelton right behind him is 2nd behind her Retro Racing Enterprises teammate Kyle Matthews in the speed charts. Jessica Shelton winning a fuel mileage race back at Phoenix International Raceway. And as we mentioned, Jessica Shelton, one of those drivers like James Shelley and Carter Friesen that need to get a little bit of distance between themselves and 30th in the point standings when we get into the Coca-Cola 600 and other future races. There's Dollerton, 31st in points, last driver to go to victory lane here during the regular season. And right now it looks like it's going to be an all Retro Racing Enterprises front row, as Kyle Matthews just bested his best lap last time around. He's now up to a 30.045. That is 0.2 faster than his teammate Jessica Shelton. That time by about 0.4 slower. But I don't think, unless somebody lays down a doozy of a lap here in the next 15 seconds, I think Kyle Matthews is going to be starting on the pole for the All-Star race, and his teammate Jessica Shelton will be making it an RRE front row. I'm really actually very impressed with Kyle Matthews laying down that lap as late into the session as he did, because I saw in practice how the lap times really tapered off as the run went on. Drivers' best laps are usually their third, fourth, fifth lap here, and then when we get into a 10, 20, 30 lap run, you see the drivers' lap times fall off by 2, 3, sometimes 4 tenths. I mean, even right now, Kyle Matthews is running 4 to 5 tenths slower than his fastest lap, which he laid down just 2 laps ago. So, the tire fall off is definitely going to be something we'll see here during the All-Star race as well, which will probably bring about drivers with not the best of handling race cars, and that's when these drivers are really going to have to fight the steering wheel, especially coming off turn 4 onto the crooked dogleg front straightaway. As we near zeros on the clock, nobody is going to be able to best Kyle Matthews, the only driver to run in the 30 zeros, and the session is now complete. So it will indeed be an all Retro Racing Enterprises front row for the All-Star race by just barely, too. Jessica Shelton's going to get second, but look at that, 3/1000ths over Jordan Lopez. So it was close. Lopez trying to break up those Chevys will have to start in third. Highest starting Dodge will be Zach Rogers in fourth, and the highest starting Toyota is going to be Benny Watson in the 7th position. So you see the way they're going to line up. You got Dylan Young, who won the All-Star Open, will be starting 13th. Ryan Brommer, who finished second in the Open, will be 14th. 15th will be third place finisher in the Open, Carson Gum. And 16th, bringing up the rear of the field, will be our fan vote winner, Trent Dunham. So the field is set for the All-Star race. Hope you guys enjoyed today's qualifying session. If you did, be sure to give a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. And we will see you guys tomorrow for the All-Star race here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. 16 drivers battle for bragging rights and a big $1 million check. Till then, I've been Seth Cole, and you've been watching a production of the NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best.